Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our insurance banter here at Cassava. Hello, Solfunmi.
Hello.
Hi, good afternoon. Welcome.
Yeah, great. You have disabled my video, so I cannot come on video.
Turn that on. I would fix that.
Cool.
Hello, Solfunmi. I think you can try it now.
Okay. It's still not working. Look, I think we can start even without the video, if you don't mind. So I see that we have a number of people on.
Okay, we will. I'm just waiting a bit, so at 2:05 we will start. I think now I should be able to see you. Yes.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Welcome. How's your afternoon going?
Working very well. It's been crazy, but happy. I think it's a good one. How are you as well?
I'm doing fine, thank you very much. So we'll just kick off in a minute. Yes. All right. Hello everyone. Welcome to our insurance banter series. And today we have a very special guest, and she is going to be speaking largely on insurance as an expense or as an investment. And I can see that she already has a touch of pink. I don't know if it was intentional.
Absolutely not, but it's good.
Thank you very much. So today, as I mentioned, we have here with us Solfunmi Sosanya. I hope I pronounced this right. And she is popularly known as Wealthmotley. I'm sure that a lot of us would know this popular social media account. She is a personal finance coach and an investor. for the most part here today, she's going to be talking on what she thinks insurance is, if it's as an expense or as an investment. And the reason we decided to have this conversation is because we want people to sort of have, should I say, an understanding of what insurance can mean or represent in their lives. So if you choose to see it as an expense, it's the same way you would say you're purchasing something to gain a particular benefit, or you see it as an investment, whereas you're putting in money into something that's going to yield some sort of return for you at some point. So I would like for Ms. Solfunmi to introduce herself. I feel like I might not have done enough justice to that. So
no. Thank you very much. I think you did a great job. And thank you to everyone who's joining. My name is Solfunmi, and I try to finance. That's what I do. I'm also, I also work in tech. I've worked in tech for almost 15 years now. But personal finance continues to be a personal passion for me. And I think everyone truly deserves to be financially independent. And this they can achieve if they definitely follow some very simple rules that can help to change their life. With Wealthmotley and with insurance, I find that a lot of people don't realize the value of insurance when it comes to investing. And I'm hoping that we do some justice to discussing how this is a critical component of personal finance.
Okay, I was just about to ask, as you mentioned, that I was going to ask what informed, you introducing insurance to your conversations across your social media platforms, because I know a lot of people, should I say influencers, that probably speak largely about finance, but they always kind of, should I say, run from insurance. So yeah, I think you've already answered. I don't know if you want to speak more on that. Maybe you had an experience and then that's what informed you introducing insurance to your content.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. I think for me, the first thing is my husband is into insurance. So that sort of like makes insurance like a forefront for me. And I've seen firsthand how insurance can help. I mean, if you look at things as simple as your car insurance, like comprehensive insurance on your car, and how you can get in an accident and one way or the other, you don't have to pay a dime, or they pay a majority fee, or sitting in meetings and hearing my husband talk about how insurance can really save big corporation individuals when they get into issues and all of that. I think that really just helped me to understand insurance a bit more personal level. But even beyond that, life is very unpredictable, and we never know when there's something going to occur or something's good. You're going to be hit with something, hardship, you don't get ill, so many uncertainties. And so for me as a personal finance person, I think that it's part of my responsibility that when I talk to people about investing and buying the right stocks and insurance, stocks and ETF and all, it's also in the same vein important to talk about insurance, because if you're not insured and you are sick today, you would sell all of those stock in a heartbeat just to make sure that you're alive. It's only the person that is alive that can buy shares and stocks and all of those things. So I think that insurance is definitely a critical aspect of personal finance. And I think that's really why I thought about it. But again, kudos to my husband on this.
All right, we're very glad that Mr. Sosanya has done that.
No,
okay.
But yeah.
All right, so I just want us to talk about, we've spoken about this, and I just want us to talk about, the difference between expense and investment. What would you say is the difference between these two concepts?
So when you say expense and in investment, expense is literally something that takes money out of your pocket. So you are spending this money for something. You're taking it out, and using it to spend something. Investment is something that brings money to you. Yeah. So let me break it down further. Expense is something that takes money out of your pocket and doesn't necessarily return anything for you. Investment is something that takes money out of your pocket but returns something for you. That's the simplest way for a layman, for someone to understand it. Yeah. And the truth is, insurance can be both. Yeah, insurance can be an expense because you have to pay a premium. No matter how small it is an expense, but it's also an investment. And that investment is against a greater risk. Also, there's some types of insurance that when you do it after a period of time and you don't have any claims and stuff, then you can get some back, or you can get some addition and stuff like that. So insurance can definitely be both. But the biggest difference is that, an expense is a cost that you incur, when you're trying to maintain or improve your standard of living, whereas insurance, on the other hand, is an expense that is made with a goal of generating income, meaning that the money goes out, but it's bringing some other things in for you. So that's the simplest way to get the difference between expense and insurance and investment.
All right, so something just came to mind now, and I don't know, because I feel like I'm thinking about it as well, and I thought to ask, why do you think I don't want to generalize and say for majority of Nigerians, but there are a number of Nigerians that would not think of insurance as this, or as a way to protect their family or themselves? And why do you think that is an existing problem?
So the biggest thing is, and you see this recur in all of our conversations, biggest thing is education. And sometimes it's even, the insurance companies themselves. How are you educating the layman who is struggling with his finances anyway, most likely, that paying me this sum of money makes sense? How do you educate them in a way that makes sense? A lot of times I find that the biggest issue for people is that, people don't understand insurance terms, or they don't understand what it covers, or they don't understand some things. If you're able to break it down for people in the way that they understand it, in the way that they see the benefits of it, in the way they can see so many things attached to it, then it's easier to have the conversation. Yeah, it's easier for people to understand it. But I think it's first helping people to understand that insurance premiums and co are almost like a place order or almost like I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Okay. It's almost like a payment you've made on something that if this thing occurs, it's so huge that it can literally wipe you out, and it's helping people understand it on a layman level, helping them see that, look, this is not about gaslighting or something. It's really about things that can happen, and understanding that the cost of being uninsured or ignorant is much more expensive. It can be the difference between life and death when it comes to health insurance. It can be the difference between your children continue to live well when it comes to things like life insurance. It can be the difference in you having a car and something when it comes to, things like car or disability insurance, a lot of things like that. And it can even be the difference between you not having a job and potentially becoming homeless and foodless when it comes to things like income insurance. So many things like that. And in the way that it's explained to people and broken down, I think that's where the problem lies. So at the core of it remains education. It's educating people about the benefits of insurance, the benefits that it provides, and helping to convince them that paying their premiums not only ensures that they are protected against unexpected events in the future, but very importantly in this day and age, also gives you peace of mind, which is very rare in Nigeria.
Sure, I agree with you. And I'm sometimes like, me working here at Cassava, like, it just makes me realize that, education is very important. Like, people learning and understanding what insurance is, because if they do not have the knowledge, they actually not know. And even with like policy documents as well, there's sometimes when, people can probably make a claim and then you tell them, oh, this is not covered in your policy. It also falls back to even we as people. Do we read the policy documents that we get? So yes, thank you very much for that point. Moving on, I think it would be nice to know what you think or how you think you can prove that insurance is an investment. Maybe you have an example. So there was something I saw on an article that I read, and they were like, when you invest, you expect only growth for a certain amount of risk. And thinking about this, we did a little analysis, but before I share that, I just want to know what you think about this, how you can prove to someone out there that insurance is truly an investment.
So there are different ways to do it. I think first, helping people understand the cash value component of certain insurance policies, that it can be considered an investment is the first thing. Some policies also offer, potential tax benefits. People don't know that sometimes. Those also are critical things that can help people understand. Then also the cash value can be used to generate additional income, provide financial security in insurance, in retirement and all of those things. So sometimes is helping people understand this. I firmly believe that even if you're looking at just the peace of mind that you get from investing and just coverage against some critical life-changing issues that can come up, disability, car issues, home insurance, income insurance, things like that. Just providing cover against all of those potentially life-changing issues, I think that's one of the biggest things that can prove that it's an investment. Is it an investment that always pay out? Some people see it as something that you are paying for fear. It's not necessarily like that. When you look at it carefully, they feel like insurance can sometimes be playing on people's fears, So those things are not things for you to, it's not how you want to consider it. You want to consider it in such a way that there's the likelihood of life happening, which life happens, yeah? Anyway, life happens. There's the potential of this happening. What can you do? How can you minimize that thing? You cannot change life. I mean, there's a earthquake in Turkey. They could never have planned it. Who could have thought that would? Same thing with a lot of people who get in a car accident or will become sick and all of those things. There's some things you just do not plan. But if insurance can take away some of that at a fraction of the cost, I think it's worth it discussing. And I think it's worth it, to look at insurance and ask yourself, is this what I really, really want to do? So I'm of the opinion that you need to see it as an investment, especially if you're taking your personal finance serious. You just have to see it as a necessary cost. If it's a fraction of 2%, 1%, I think that's very fair enough when you're looking at mutual funds today. And this is coming from a personal finance background. If you're looking at mutual funds today in Nigeria, who charge you as much as 2.5% a year. Yeah, and they still don't deliver for you. And I know that if I pay my insurance premiums on different things that I want covered, they probably will not take more than 2% of my income. Why don't I do that? You see what I'm saying? So.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I think to just buttress on your points, to be really nice to just take everyone through this. So we decided to more or less showcase an example, and we're looking at the life of two single people, Ade and Shade, and they both have, let's say they have 120,000 naira in pockets. If we're talking about health insurance, Ade clearly has no health insurance. According to this image here, Ade has no health insurance, but Shade pays 3,500 naira monthly and 42,000 yearly. Her average hospital visit is twice a year, and Ade is visiting the hospital 3 times. And his spend, which is obviously out of pocket, is 40,000 times those 3 times, which is going to obviously give us 120, compared to Shade, who has health insurance, and her average spend per hospital visit is literally 0 because she has a health insurance covering most of these things. For savings, if you're talking of what they got back and how much they were able to, put into something else, Ade literally has nothing. And, for Shade, she is going back home with 78K. And this just shows how insurance is that discounted price of anything you want to protect or secure, compared to you, paying out of pocket for everything that you need to protect. A second example here, we decided to take a look at two families who have children, and we have Tope and we have Henry. Tope is married with 3 kids and Henry has 2 kids. Tope spends 20,000 monthly because she has kids and a family to cater for, which is 250K every year. And Henry, with 2 kids, has no health insurance. Tope is visiting the hospital 10 times. Henry is visiting 8 times. And her average spend every time she goes to the hospital is 0 because of her health insurance. And Henry, on the other hand, is having to spend 50,000 plus his medications times those 8 times he's visiting the hospital, which is yielding 400K in his spend for every time that he's visiting the hospital, either with him, his wife, or his kids. And then you look at what they have in savings, or how much they have to themselves. Tope has saved for 400,000 naira that Henry is spending. She has saved 150,000 naira. So this just basically shows that, you deciding to actually get insurance is an investment. And I think even something we don't dodgy talk about is life insurance. I recall that, one of our employees here, he shared a story with us at the office and told us that, him growing up, his dad died. And when his dad died, it was the benefits of his dad's life insurance that, saw him and his siblings through school. And, when you share this kind of story with people, it's going to be very hard to believe. But for him, it's something he, carries at heart. And he's like going out there trying to help people understand that, look, life insurance or insurance as a whole is an investment for you and for your family. Like seeing it just as an expense, and this is me talking about expense. I think when you mention insurance as an expense, people automatically think, oh, it's expensive. So it's like, do I have the funds to, set aside for this, or do I not have? So it's like you're measuring and weighing things that you would rather, spend your money on. And I think I just want to speak to insurance as an expense. A typical example would be maybe a group of people. I want to give you a pizza analogy. They want to buy pizza, but they can't afford pizza. So they decide to pull funds together to buy this pizza. When the pizza arrives, they are able to share it amongst themselves. And this is literally how insurance works. You have people pulling their monies together to be able to get benefits of something at an affordable price. So moving on, I just want us to talk about insurance as an expense and what you think about that. In my own head, I'm thinking Nigerians don't necessarily see it as an expense, but they see it as something that's expensive. So it's like it's a heavy thing to just let go of, especially because there's a chance, whereas nothing would happen to you. So it's like you're putting money into something, but for the longest time you are not getting anything. It's like the money is just going and you're just saving. So yes, what do you think about that?
So when people say that, I try to give this analogy to people. If you go to school to learn, especially in this climate today, are you assured of the job? No. You just believe you will get better chances of getting a job. That's why you do it. You want to place yourself above every other person who maybe doesn't have that qualification like you. That's why you go to learn about, to read about something, to know more. I think the more you know more about insurance, the more this question doesn't come into play. Yeah, that's number one on knowledge. Number two is the other side of it. Is it a surety? Are you 1001% that you won't hit those unforeseen circumstances? I've seen people walk out of their door and eat their legs, and then their leg become issues, and then they go to the hospital and have to treat it. It is a necessity in life. There's so many unforeseen things. If you can prevent some of them at a tiny fraction of the cost, I think it just makes sense. Especially if you're thinking of long-term financial sustainability and long-term financial independence. It just makes sense. to just insure yourself with things. There are still things that are going to happen that you cannot insure yourself against. But the ones that you can definitely do, I think it makes sense. Why is the government making car insurance, mandatory for people? Because you're on the road and things can happen on the road, even if it's not. I remember a couple of years ago, I think about 11, 12 years ago, I was driving randomly in Lagos, no issues, nothing. I wasn't running into anybody and cool. And then a crazy downfall ran into me. And he didn't just run into me which was by the passenger, by the driver's side where I was driving. He reversed and ran into me again.
Wow.
So much so that the door was almost totally cut off on that side of the car, on the whole side. And why did he run into me? He didn't plan to run into me, but he was being chased by LASMA. So he was trying to escape them. Anyway, this guy runs away. And the LASMA people, who of course caused it, did not even stop to check my own car that was so damaged. I could have been wounded and killed. Again, did I do anything wrong? No. I was just streets of Lagos. That's how, what saved me in that stuff was my insurance. All I had to do was pick up my phone and call my insurance and tell them, this is what has happened. And I said, okay, this and this and this is what you need to say this. And I did that. And my car was fixed. No questions asked, nothing. So far it was covered, everything painted, bought new doors in every single thing. In Nigeria, it's not even as good. In the UK, if this happens and you have insurance issues, if you have things like accident like that, they give you a brand new car or a great car to be driving while they go fix your car. Insurance just saves you. If I had to pay out of pocket for that particular expense, even as 11 years ago, I'll have probably paid over 100 and something thousand to fix that side of the car, buy new doors, have it painted, panel beated, all of those things. But just because I had taken that expense of paying insurance, which at that time was probably maybe all of 15K or 20K, I saved myself that worry. Again, you can always ask that, what if it doesn't happen? But the biggest question is, what if it does? Now, are there ways that insurance companies have tried to make things easier for people when they pay this expense because you're paying it and nothing happens? For example, I haven't been in the hospital in the last 3-4 years. I have had no reason to go to the hospital because thanks to God, I haven't been ill. But have I had health insurance all of those times? Absolutely, yes, you see. But I know that a couple of years ago, 9 years ago, thereabouts, when I was going to have my son, and again, I had health insurance, I was able to walk into the hospital. And when it became an emergency and I needed emergency surgery, I didn't even have to ask. I didn't have to even think of how much. I remember the lady in the next room to me, who didn't even have emergency surgery, was told to go and make a deposit of 1.2 million or something before they did that surgery. Who didn't, again, she wasn't even an emergency. Mine was an emergency. She was a planned cesarean section. But she had to go and deposit 1.2 million before they even touched that, before they did it. But I had emergency and nobody asked me for it. I remember that I was going, when we were going to be discharged and walk out of the hospital, I kept looking that someone is going to bring a bill to me, that this cannot be free. All of this cannot be free. All of everyone, the way everyone rallied in time, every single human being I needed was there. And I did not pay a dime just for my insurance. And I'm speaking of one of the best hospitals in Lagos, Lagoon Hospitals. So it was just, so you think of situations like that, and you imagine if you had to start running around to get that cash. You see, those are the things you tell yourself. Now, there's also parts of other insurance, that insurance companies have made it that maybe after a couple of years, you don't have any claims, they give you some money back, they reduce your insurance premiums, they do things like that. All of those things are important, all of those things are there to make it easier on people. I think at the end of the day, if you're planning for financial independence way before your retirement time, so that you're free of worries and things like that, I feel like insurance should not even come close as an expense for you. It should be one of those things that definitely you start to look out for. Is there work for insurance companies, especially in this part of the world, to do? Absolutely, yes. There's a lot of education that's not being done at the grassroots level. If you would tell a woman who works very hard, to sell a pepper on the road, and you tell her that, mommy, your business is worth 100,000 naira or per month or something. But if you paid 500 naira or 1,000 naira, for a whole year, or you pay 2,000 naira or something for a whole year, we can guarantee that if something like this happens, something like that happens, something like this happens, we will give you this stuff of things. Then it starts to make sense at that grassroots level to them. But I think that education is extremely important. And I know that companies are beginning to take it serious, to see that if you can educate people about this thing, then it starts to make sense, the more for them. And they begin to see it as an investment rather than an expense.
All right, thank you so much. Just speaking about emergencies, there was a time we were having a conversation here at the office, and people speaking and saying that they would rather have emergency savings and just that rather than having insurance. So I just wanted to know what your thoughts are on that.
I would tell you for free that emergency savings is very different from insurance, and your emergency savings should not be used for insurance, because I can tell you for free. So let's say, for example, what we usually advocate for people is you should save at least 3 to 6 months emergency savings, at one place. So if you are earning, or if you spend 500K a month, or you spend, let's say, 200K a month, then you should have 1.2 million saved somewhere as your emergency funds, at least. But then emergency funds is set aside for specific unexpected expenses like job loss, medical emergency, and co. But if you can insure yourself on the other hand to protect yourself against that financial impact of those unexpected things, then it makes sense, instead of you using your emergency funds to do. Because you know what happens when you use the emergency funds this time? Then you start to pray that in the next 6 months, or how many months, while you are trying to rebuild that emergency fund, nothing else should happen, and life doesn't happen. You see what I'm saying? So your emergency funds is for emergency funds that you cannot predict. My car, anything could happen to my car, but if I have insurance, that takes it out. So that's different. Can I get sick? Absolutely yes. But if I have health insurance, does that save me? Great. All of those things are there. You see what I'm saying? But emergency funds should be for things that you absolutely cannot stop. So for example, in my house, if something happened to my pumping machine and I couldn't get water, and I need water to eat, I need water to have my bath, I need water in the house, all of the things, then that's an emergency. If I don't have money saved for it, then I can take money from my emergency fund. For example, my great-grandmother decides to pass on. She most likely doesn't have, she's great-great-grandmother. She was born in the 1920s or something. She didn't think of insurance, yeah? You see what I'm saying? Those are the difference, and those are the things you want to do your emergency funds for, not things that you can prevent. Even my dad, who doesn't live in Nigeria, my dad, we were having a conversation, and not only did he say he had worked on his life insurance, he's also worked on it in such a way that even in the event of his death, you don't have to pay a dime for, mortuary. You don't have to pay a dime for his funeral. You just need to show up. That's how much he has insured himself, to ensure that if something happens to me, not only are my children taken care of as much as possible with some that they can get, but also that even the funeral cost is already sort of accounted for in some way. That it says you literally just have to show up. Everything I've paid for it, I've insured it. So those are ways that you can go ahead to save yourself from cost. Imagine someone dies in Nigeria now. If you are now Igbo or even Yoruba and you want to go back to the village, see all of the cost, see all of the stuff. Those things are things that you have to put in mind for your emergency funds, because you don't have insurance for it. But anything else you can prevent. There's this insurance cost that my husband insisted we pay on. And I looked at it and it made sense. It is 10,000 naira. And that 10,000 naira insures you against household things up to 2 million naira. So your couch, your this, your that, you insure it. just 10,000 naira a year. I mean, I'm like up to 2 million in case of theft or a burglary, stuff like that. And I'm like, why are people not doing this? It just makes sense to invest, to insure things like that. Because imagine something happened, and just because you had paid this 10,000 naira somewhere, you were insured against it. So the difference is very clear for me. Emergency funds is not from insurance at all. They're two different things. And my emergency funds should not be used for insurance. They should be used for actual emergencies. Because what insurance does for you is it removes some things that will ordinarily be emergencies. It turns them to things that will be paid for just because you pre-planned it. So it's such an important, different level for emergency funds and for insurance.
All right. Thank you so much. I wanted to speak on, what you said earlier about, reasons why Nigerians are not embracing insurance. And two things I've always thought about, and even from like research, is that, there is that lack of purchasing power. And then there's also the side of, the government intervening, whereas you're making certain insurance policies compulsory. So I know that in some countries across the world, they've made certain insurance policies compulsory for people. And I sometimes think that I feel like when we get there, that's when people will begin to embrace, insurance. Even outside of education being a key factor, the government also involving themselves steadily in this would also help, should I say, build that knowledge base for everyone. Before we wrap up, there's a question I wanted to ask, and I just want to know what your thoughts is on it. And this is about the what if something happens narrative, basically the fear factor that is always included in every, narrative or every story you hear about insurance, just to sell insurance. And do you think that this also informs how people behave or react towards it? Because, I mean, in the first instance, the reaction you get from people is, oh, God forbid that this happens to me. Do you think that that's the best way to sell insurance to people?
I think, look, the what if narrative, Uncle, is always there. It's always a powerful thing that people always say, God forbid. And we being religious people, we always say, God forbid, I reject it. It will never happen in Jesus' name, Uncle. And people are filling the hospitals every day, and cars are getting bashed every day. So there's some things that I personally believe that God, in his infinite wisdom, gave us sense to prevent. My pastor will say that some things you pray to God for, God will say, my son, you to go and do it. I've given you brain to think of it. I feel like in some instances, insurance is that. If you've insured yourself against something, you know that if it happens, it doesn't happen. Especially if the premiums are not at a astronomical rate. And if they are like common household, common things that happen in our society anyway. If you live in Lagos, I think it's dangerous to be on the road without car insurance. Yes, just because of the craziness of the road. Do you understand? Same thing in Abuja. I remember going there and seeing that you guys are driving like Formula One on the road. Like the roads are so free, so everybody's moving the way they like, no speed limits and all. So all of those things, you need to look at the environment you're in. The government definitely has a lot to do to help people understand insurance, and in some cases make some insurance mandatory. And I know they've done that for like health insurance and co. There is a lot that still needs to be done. In the more key developed markets, you see that insurance it's such a big industry. There's insurance for just about every single thing. I mean, celebrities are insuring their legs and their bum and their voices and their hands and all of those things. That shows you how much they value anything they pretty much value, they insure it. Yeah. Against theft or so anything that brings them money. So it's thinking about it and getting people to understand that what if narrative can definitely be a powerful way to get people to consider insurance, and that to also understand that sometimes it's really about preventing the physical factors by paying your insurance than hoping and praying and doing all of that and adding more prayer points to your prayers when you don't have to, when you can just insure yourself, pray and leave it, and stuff. So those are the different things to do it. It's also important to provide accurate information and education about insurance. I keep hammering on the education. And when I say education is not done when we reel out all of the different types of insurance and all of those things. Education is not done then. Education is done when that person understands why they should be insured. Education is done when they understand, not just when you tell, and I think that's the difference in a lot of personal finance or insurance education I see anywhere. It's just this done to give out the information. It's not done to ensure that the person understands and from there make informed choices. Even if they understand, would they always insure themselves? No. But at least they understand the value of insurance. So I think that's very important. I hope that clarifies.
Yes, thank you. Just before we wrap up, I just want to know if anyone has a question. Please, if you do, you can write your questions in the Q&A chat box. Thank you very much. All right, someone is asking a question here, and he says, hello, please, assuming I insured my video camera and the worth of that camera is 500,000. If that camera happened to break down or spoil permanently, will the insurance company buy another video camera for me if I inform them? Would you want to answer, or should I go?
Again, I'm not an insurance person, so I wouldn't be able to answer this question. But I feel like if yourself as an insurance company understand the risk that's being measured. So a lot of these insurance companies, and I'm sure you have a better or clearer explanation, Jojo. But a lot of insurance companies, they'll look at what you're trying to insure and they'll tell you, they'll see it. They would weigh the risk and give you a commensurate premium. So definitely, I think it's doable to insure your film equipment, especially if that's your livelihood. It's definitely doable. I just think it's deciding or discussing with your insurance company and defining the ramification or the way that they will insure it, or the scenario that will necessitate payment of a claim or not. So yeah, that's my personal opinion about that particular film equipment insurance. Jojo.
Yes, so speaking of what she has said, you can also get gadgets insurance, and I know that there are insurance companies that also cover, like under gadgets insurance, they consider cameras and all of that filming equipment as things you can get covering for. So yes, all right, thank you so much. Just before we go, I think the final question here to ask is, and it's like we've already said the answer, but just to reiterate it one more time, is insurance, what is it now? Is it an expense or is it an investment? Just to wrap up.
Yeah, I think we've spoken a lot about it, and personally I would say that it's a necessary investment. It's both, it's an expense and an investment, but I think it's a necessary expense because you need to prevent yourself against that. And like we gave some analogies, you can buy all the stocks in the world and all the great great ETFs in the world and all of those things, or great real estate, but if you get sick or your child gets sick or your spouse gets sick, you can spend all that money, all the money you have, just to make sure that person is healthy, when you could easily have paid insurance for it. You see what I'm saying? So if you are not that, then it just negates every single thing that you are done right, just because you missed out on that. Can you also pay it and this health issues don't happen? Of course. But remember that as we grow in age and as we live day to day, these issues happen. So the ones that you can prevent, I will absolutely say that it's very important. So I would say it's an investment any day, anytime.
Thank you very much. And just to add to what she has said, I think there are 4 major insurance policies that any insurance company would always advise you to get. And there's the home insurance, there's the life insurance, there's your health insurance, and then there's your car insurance. These are like things that inform what you do on a daily basis. So if you're trying to start, you can always start with health insurance. Thank you so much, Mrs. Solfunmi. It is and was an honor to host this with you. For as many that are here, you can also, follow her on social media as Wealthmotley. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you everyone for coming today. We really appreciate, and we will be doing this some other time next month. Thank you so much and have a lovely day.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.